From the banks of Dewey Lake, it's the Dewey Pod Monster.
Time for horrorween, each 125.
Welcome back. My name is John, and this is the Dewey Pod Monster podcast. This is a weekly podcast, and it is about horrorween. At least for the time being, it is about horrorween. We are, of course, proud members of the You Run Podcast Network. You can find all of our previous episodes, all of our upcoming episodes, and all of the other amazing shows that are on the You Run Podcast Network at yourunpodcast.com. With me this week is the horrorweeniest of the horrorweeners. His name is Sean. He's the host of this show. And Sean, how are you doing today?
If you should use my blood on anyone else, the body will treat it like an infection. It'll putrefy into a pus-like fluid, and the body would swell up like a balloon, and the result would be a horrifying death.
I'm surprised you were actually able to pull a quote to start this episode, and I'm quite happy about that. But that's because I know what's coming. Before we get into that, Sean, what have you been watching over the last, 47 days since I've been dead to the world?
Since you've recovered from the greatest illness of all. Impotence? What?
Stomach flu.
Oh, stomach flu. Got it.
No, that surprisingly hasn't been a problem, for better or worse.
Well,
so.
Good for you. You're about that age. So I watched a few things. I got a couple things down. I ended up watching and finishing since the last time we talked, or last time we recorded at least. Started, watched, and finished season 1 of Alien Earth, which is the FX show basically about bringing aliens, different aliens, including the xenomorphs, to Earth. And basically, the story starts out with a company, not Weyland-Yutani, but they're called Prodigy, and they take the souls of sick children and they put them into these androids, basically synthetics, to do stuff, right? So the first one, they're all based on Peter Pan characters. Wendy is the first one that starts. She gets to pick her own name, and then they get multiple kids and get them into this program and move their souls or their being into these synthetic adult bodies, and they bury the children. And as they're kind of coming out of their training for that, Yutani ship crashes into a building that's owned by the company known as Prodigy, and they have to go into the ship to see what's recoverable. And that's when they find xenomorph eggs. They find different kinds of aliens, not just xenomorphs, but other foreign alien races or whatever. And yeah, hilarity ensues basically. So I liked it quite a bit. I don't think there's much of a parallel or any kind of connection to any other alien thing other than using the names Weyland-Yutani, using the kind of lore or the backstory that's already built into the whole Alien universe. But looking forward to seeing what they do with season 2. It wasn't it feels like as the series went on, maybe 7 episode, I think it was an 8 episode season. So episode 7 or so, it started kind of getting really good. And then 8 felt like it was still very good, but it felt like, okay, what's going to happen next? One of those things, not really necessarily a cliffhanger, but it was, it left me intrigued. Let's put it that way. It was fairly good. I enjoyed myself watching it. So the next thing I'll talk about, I couldn't just talk about all fiction stuff, so I have to talk about documentaries. So the one that I watched that I'll talk about next is The Smashing Machine, which is basically what the movie that The Rock is in, the new Smashing Machine film that just opened a week or two ago, that The Rock's in playing. He plays Mark Kerr. And this is a documentary. It was on, I'm not quite sure what it was on initially. It may have been ESPN, back in 2002. So it's the movie not starring Dwayne The Rock Johnson, if you haven't followed me so far. So it's a documentary following Mark Kerr, who was a very high level college wrestler. I think he tried to get into the Olympics or not. I'm not really sure, but it only follows him for this period from 1999 to 2001. And in that time, he's already a professional fighter, and he's fighting for Pride Fighting Championship in Japan. Yeah. So it goes through that, his training to get to Pride and, win their belt or whatever. He gets addicted to drugs in the meantime. They cover his addiction, his recovery, this relationship with his girlfriend at the time, which I don't know much about what happened after this filming has ended, other than that's probably, I'm assuming that this movie with The Rock in it is like, picks up sometime from this documentary and then afterwards. So I really don't know what the difference is. I haven't seen the Smashing Machine, the 2025 Smashing Machine, so I'm not sure like how much it differs or not, but that's a really interesting documentary. It's only, I want to say it's only a little over an hour. It might be one of those like hour and 9 minute, hour and 20 minute documentaries. Like I said, it was on ESPN or something like that at the time. And then the last one I'll talk about is just really briefly. It's from 1984. It's a Canadian documentary called Hookers on Davie. And it is a documentary about prostitutes. I know it's a funny name. A documentary about prostitutes that work on Davie Street in Vancouver. It covers like men, women, trans prostitutes. They're all interviewed. They kind of follow them on the street. I don't know how they got consent on some of these things. They don't really show many of the clients. They do show a couple of them actually. Like one guy's pestering this prostitute who is trans. It's very like centered following these prostitutes like and their daily lives. One of them, like her mother comes to visit. They have the whole thing. They interview the mom and like talk to how she feels about her kid being a prostitute and just all this different stuff is really super interesting. And I feel like the filmmakers,
just glad she's working.
No, I don't. They weren't like proud that she was a prostitute, but they weren't like super, the parent wasn't super upset. So they really just interview all these different kinds and some prostitutes that started out as like presenting as men or boys, and then they go to start presenting as women. It's a really interesting documentary. And as always, if possible, we'll leave all links to all the stuff we talk about in the show notes. John, what have you been watching?
So I've kind of been all over the place. I've actually watched way too much this week, but I'll try to just condense it down to 3 for the moment. I'm going to go in order of what I like the most to least for whatever reason. You didn't ask. Doesn't matter. That's what I'm doing. The thing I liked the most that I watched this week was also a documentary. It's called John Candy, I Like Me. So it just came out recently. It's on Amazon. It is probably a solid 2 hours long. It's got a lot of very similar, like, I guess this depends on like your opinion on John Candy, and I would be willing to bet a lot of it probably weighs on like when you grew up and what you like. Because to me, John Candy is one of those like very, this sounds weird to say, but he's almost like a nostalgic actor. Like I remember him a lot from like movies that I watched when I was growing up, movies like Uncle Buck and movies like The Blues Brothers. And, you know, I don't need to go off and rattle all his credentials, but he's one of those guys that just always epitomize like Hollywood nice guy, for lack of better wording. Like I've never heard anyone say a negative word about him. And it's interesting because there's a ton of people that you know that talk about John Candy throughout this documentary. There's his immediate family, his kids, and then tons of actors and actresses, like tons of SNL like alumni, SCTV alumni. The list goes on. Like it's full of familiar faces from start to finish. But the documentary starts with Bill Murray, and he's basically saying something. I'm totally paraphrasing, something to the effect though of, you know, I've never heard anyone say like dig up any dirt on John. Like it just never has happened. I kind of hope that someone does through the course of this documentary, because it almost would just be interesting to hear. Not trying to sound, he actually doesn't sound like he's trying to like talk shit about the guy. He's just curious if there ever was anything like that. And it's a really, really good documentary. It does a really good job of profiling the majority of his life, at least what they're telling you. It feels like this was just a really good dude who happened to be really talented, get into acting at the right time, but his demons that he had were just how he took care of himself in a nutshell, like between food and booze and drugs and whatever else. It, you know, that's why he essentially died young. But it's, I don't know, it's really intriguing. I was bummed out at the end of it, but also like I really enjoyed that, which is hard to say. Like I said, it reminded me a lot of the Gene Wilder doc that they did on Netflix, because you just kind of leave it like, oh, this guy I grew up watching is dead. And like, it's not like if this will probably never happen, but it's not like if they made a Bill Murray doc and all the stuff that we know is probably true about Bill Murray came out in a doc. You're like, oh, I guess he wasn't so great all the time. Like there's none of that in it. It's just like a doc about a nice guy who died young and all the stuff that he accomplished. And I forgot that he bought a fucking football team at one point. He bought the Toronto Argonauts, so a Canadian football team. I totally had no idea, or either forgot or didn't know. There's a lot of little things I especially in his early years, like movies I didn't know that he had done. I wasn't overly familiar with the stuff on SCTV, but I knew he was on it. But they do a lot of focusing on that early like development in his career and how that influenced a lot of the characters he had later in his career. So that's, I mean, it's on Amazon Prime. I think it's only been out like a week or so, but I highly recommend that, especially if you like John Candy. It's absolutely worth giving a watch. Most of my stuff this week is kind of newer, which is a little bit different for me. So I watched the new Toxic Avenger movie, which just came out. Well, it came out it's listed as 2023 on the IMDb page. I know it just recently, like in the last month or so, got a theatrical release, and I don't know where it's been over the last 2 years, other than like the internet, and I'm assuming like film festivals and stuff like that. But
I thought that was one that they couldn't find distribution for or something. They were having a really hard time with the ratings
might be.
and everything.
Yeah, and this is, at least, I don't know if there's different versions of this. I wouldn't be surprised if there is, but the one I watched is not rated, which probably has something to do with it. But regardless, it's an interesting take on the movie because, you know, I'm pretty like middle of the road on it. Like I would say if you, honestly, whether you like the original Toxie or not, like I don't think it really matters. Like it's a reboot in the sense that there's a character who is the Toxic Avenger. There's a ton of like trauma Easter eggs, some that like they beat you over the head with, and some that like, if you know, you know, kind of things. So there's a lot of that. Of course, Lloyd Kaufman shows up in it, and there's a lot of other cameos in it. Like there's a shit ton of cameos in it, but it's Peter Dinklage plays the lead. He plays Toxie, or whatever his human character is. Who cares? The negatives with it is it takes about 45 minutes before the Toxic Avenger starts toxic avenging, and that's kind of fucking annoying. For what they were trying to do, like, if you're going to make a character that's called the Toxic Avenger, I don't need 40 minutes of backstory. Dip him in the shit, get him out there, he's weird looking, and he's doing crazy shit. The flip side of that is when they start doing crazy shit, like especially the first couple times it happens, you have an audible, like, holy shit, they just did that moment, like, which is kind of fun for what it is. But there's a lot of stuff in it where if I had to boil it down, I'd say this is what happens if you make a Toxic Avenger movie, but try to give it the same treatment that they gave Deadpool, if that makes any sense. It's got a lot of similar, like, sense of humor, timing, and styling like that, which doesn't always land for me. I think part of that might be, we try not to praise Ryan Reynolds too much on this show because I know how you feel about him, but like just the timing between Peter Dinklage and Kevin Bacon and some of the Elijah Wood, some of the other people that are in this movie, not to toot like Ryan Reynolds' horn, but they just don't have that same like delivery that he does, and that makes that kind of humor just not work. At least for me, it didn't work as much. That said, when it does crazy like gore shit and over the top shit, it can be cool. There's a band in this movie that like is in it for, what's this, hour and 42 minutes. They're probably in it for a good hour and 20 minutes at least. And every time they're on screen, I'm like, what, this band that's like, they're a plot device in the movie, but every time they're on screen, I'm like, would you just fucking kill these people already and like let me move on with the rest of this movie? And thankfully they get to that point, but I don't want to call them cringe, but they're just fucking obnoxious, and you don't feel bad at all when they're gone. And at the end of the day, like everyone in this movie except for Peter Dinklage and his kid are kind of a piece of shit. So it's hard to really have like a barometer there of like, who am I rooting for, who am I not? It's not the worst thing that I've watched. Apparently I'm looking at it, the IMDb right now. It's on Prime to buy or to rent. You know, it's worth watching. I'd say, especially if you like newer style horror movies, like stuff that's come out in the last like 5 years or so. If you like the Deadpool movies, you'll probably be pretty entertained by this. I've heard some people just like totally like dick riding this movie, and I don't think it deserves that. Like, I think it's okay, but I mean, I don't want to necessarily straight up compare it to the original because I think you're talking about two like worlds difference. Like one was made with like $5. One was made with like $25. It's hard to really compare this to the original because the original is such a trauma piece, for better or worse. And I don't know if this is technically under Troma's umbrella. They have naming all over it, so I'm sure they're getting tons of money for it, whether they do or not. But it's good. It's not great. I don't know that I would watch it again if I didn't, unless we decide to cover it at some point. That's the only way I'll probably watch it again. But I wouldn't be totally like booger lipped about it if I had to watch it again at the same time. So take that for what it's worth. The other thing that I would like to speak on that I have been putting off for no real good reason is I finally got through the first, I guess, 2 seasons of the Creep Tapes. Yeah, 2, 1, however many episodes there are. I've gotten through all of them now. And I know you said you haven't watched these movies yet, so I'm going to try to say this without ruining as little as I can. I'm going to ruin as much as I can for you about it.
I'm going to ruin as little as much I can.
The thing about the show is the same complaint I have about the second movie. So you have to take the first movie is great because it's so isolated and so secluded and so uniquely its own new thing. And there's just like, you kind of know where the movie's going to go because the poster kind of gives you a pretty good idea. And if you've read anything about the movies, you probably have a pretty good idea of what you're getting into. And they're like 10 years old now, so you probably have heard people talk about it. That said, knowing what Mark Duplass's character, whatever his fucking name is, knowing what he is going into the movie, like with certainty, not having a breadcrumb there to be like, well, maybe it's something else or maybe it's misleading. It just kind of feels like an exercise in the same type of storytelling over and over and over again. Now, the benefit here is these are condensed down to like 22-ish minute episodes, so they go pretty quick. Like you can hammer them out, one after another. And there are some that do a little bit more and are a little bit better. But for the most part, what this guy's, like, I guess his MO is or what he's going to do. You have a pretty good idea how he's going to do it. And you know what some of the character beats are that you're going to get sprinkled in throughout each episode. And by the 3rd or 4th episode, I'm like, I feel like I'm just watching the same thing over and over again, just in slightly different
flavors,
sceneries, or yeah, just a little bit. So it's not bad. It's still like, he still is a good performance as this character. And I mean, the idea of what they're doing is kind of cool. And again, I'm dancing around it because I don't want to ruin the first movie for you, like more than I probably already have. But I don't know how much. For me, this kind of feels like it's falling flat because all the mystery and all the like curiosity from the first movie, all the tension that you can build because of that, there's like none of it there. So
would you say if you haven't watched any of the movies, you haven't watched any of it, is it worth just watching the movies and skipping the TV show? Like, are you picking up anything substantial from watching the TV show that you wouldn't get from just watching the movies?
No, not at all. I would say this be my recommendation. Watch the first one without question. Like, the first one's a really good movie. I really like it for what it is. And it's one of those exercises in like, how do we make a movie for like $20 and still have it be somehow successful? It's that kind of feel. The second one's pretty good, but it does do some different things from the first movie. But after seeing the first movie, my problems that I just said about the show are the same. The show just it feels watered down and it repeats itself a lot. So if you really, really like this character, or you really like Mark Duplass, or any combination thereof, then yeah, give it a watch. There's certainly worse ways you can spend 20 minutes at a time. But if you're going into it expecting it to really build on the character or the story in a way that is interesting, I don't know that the show's going to fulfill that for you, or at least it doesn't for me.
Is each episode its own thing? It's all self-contained. It's not a serial. It's like a procedural, and then, or do they kind of link together somehow?
They link together in a way,
putting you in a position.
I want to say how they do, but if I do, it's going to take all what I just said about the first movie. It's going to ruin it for you.
Okay.
So I don't want to
Enough said.
do that.
All right. I can live with that.
But I will say the reason that this show exists and where the premise of where these episodes are coming from, like the idea behind it makes sense, and it's a really good idea. But it's just because there's all the tension's gone, that for the kind of horror story that it's trying to tell, I don't think it works without that. So
Okay.
And anyone who thinks I'm like dancing around something, You can tell me directly, and I'll explain why I'm annoyed with it. So I'm just trying not to ruin it for
me,
anyone who hasn't seen. Sean or anyone else who hasn't seen the original.
Not really for me.
Yeah.
No bother.
Well, neither of us are exactly good at watching things when they first come out. So
depends on what it is.
Probably.
I mean, I just watched The Departed like 3 months ago. So
really,
I didn't talk about it on the show.
I know you had seen it before, but I didn't know. Okay,
just watched it on my vacation. That was the first time I watched it. Anywho, we're not on vacation now, so I think it's time for us to take a break. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about this horrorween topic, which is selected by you, kind of, sort of, because we put it in a poll. It's called Project Metalbeast. So we're going to be back in just a minute and do some werewolf. Hi everyone, AI John here. Have you ever watched a movie that you loved and wished you could get a fresh perspective from someone who's never seen that movie before? That's just what's in store for you on the Reaction Shot podcast. Dave takes a deep dive with his guests to chat, dissect, and review these movies, and even discuss the impact the movie had on pop culture. Head over to yourunpodcast.com to check them out and all the other members of the You Run Podcast Network. All right, so we're back, and this is the third episode in this year's Horrorween Marathon, and this week we are going to be talking about the movie Project Metalbeast. Now, this movie was also put in a poll. It also won by 1 vote. I'm going to hold off on saying what it beat because it's going to come up again later in Question of the Week quite a few times. But until then, we're going to talk about Project Metalbeast because it's a movie called Project Metalbeast. What could fucking go wrong, right? You have to say it in a way, I don't know, that makes it sound like, I don't know, like
Project Metalbeast.
Yeah.
Project Metalbeast.
Or something. I don't have any air horn. I don't think I have an air horn on the soundboard here.
That's fine. I don't really want to hear it. So, anyway.
Project Metalbeast. Project Metalbeast.
So, now that we've gotten that out of our system, we're going to go ahead and start with the third-party review.
Yeah. All the people that are still here.
People were probably just like, I want to hear what they watched, and then I'm going to fucking peace out on this piece of shit. But anyway, we start with a third-party review, and this one came from someone who didn't leave a name, and it says, I feel as if I wanted to like this one more than it would actually let me. I give the filmmakers credit for going for the over-the-top concept as they do, but by no objective measure is this a good film. If, however, you are in the right mindset and have had perhaps a drink or two, you might get something out of this movie. 2 out of 5 stars. I actually feel like that's kind of a level-headed review, but with that in mind, Sean, who is this movie about? What is Project Metalbeast all about?
All right, so for that, we go over to IMDb. We type in the words Project Metalbeast. Metalbeast is one word, and it pulls up this movie. I think this is what we watched. Never quite sure if it's a storyline or the plot, but they wouldn't put it on the top if they didn't want it read first. It says, in 1974, an unhinged CIA agent injects himself with the werewolf blood he found. After a killing spree, his body is put in suspended animation, then thawed out 20 years later by his crazy boss and a team of unsuspecting doctors. I'm so very sorry. This came out in 1995. It got an R rating. It's an hour and 32 minutes. It gets a 4.5 out of 10 with 1.400 ratings. That's 1,400.
It's shockingly not in the top however many movies that are popular on IMDb.
Yeah, it doesn't get a top guy here. We're going to go down to the plot. I guess that makes the top one the storyline or something. This one comes care of Claudio Carvalho from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, who, Claudio, thank you very much for writing in to us. You have contributed in the past. We appreciate it. It says, in 1974, 2 American agents are sent to Hungary by his superior Miller to get werewolf blood for a secret project for the creation of an invincible warrior. One of the men dies, and the other decides to inject the blood in himself, being killed by Miller. This makes no sense. There is a shutdown of the secret project. 20 years later, the scientist Anne De Carlo is carrying out a research of metallic skin to replace burned ones under the command of Miller, and the body of the dead agent is delivered for the experiment. The agent is transformed in a kind of killing metallic werewolf. This must have been translated into English because, yeah, that's not so great. That's not great.
Do
you have a Cliff Notes, John? Can you fill us in with the Cliff Notes?
I didn't, but I can kind of wing it. Short version is these military CIA apparently dudes go somewhere and
they
murder the most yoked out. Yeah, they go to Hungary. They murder the most yoked out werewolf I've ever seen in my life, steal his blood. One dude injects it because he thinks that's going to be a good idea. And 20 years later, he turns into Kane Hodder as like a really gnarly, yoked out looking werewolf that is really good at off-screen kills. And we'll see about the rest. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I guess that's pretty good.
But I mentioned Kane Hodder before we start talking about this movie, because I feel like this is going to be a interesting conversation because, well, we'll get to that in about probably 2 minutes. But before we get to that, who besides Kane Hodder, who's in this movie? So,
all right, so we've got Barry Bostwick as Miller. He was Brad Majors from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. He was Ace Hunter in Megaforce, Spin City as the mayor, and he's been in a ton of stuff, mostly shit. We have Kim Delaney.
You would know him by face. You might not know him by name.
You would know him by voice probably too. I think you could probably pick his voice out.
Probably.
We've got Kim Delaney. She is Anna DiCarlo. She is probably best known from NYPD Blue, but she was in Mission to Mars, Darkman 2, and in the original Delta Force with Lee Marvin and Chuck Norris. We have Musetta Vander, who plays Debbie. She was Sindel from the Mortal Kombat Annihilation movie, and she was in Wild Wild West. And we have Kane Hodder, who plays Metalbeast. He's best known as Jason Voorhees in multiple Friday the 13th films. He was Victor Crowley in the Hatchet series. He played the alligator in Alligator. And of course, Billy Boy in Alligator 2.
I mean, how are you going to top playing the alligator in Alligator?
Or Billy Boy. I mean, Jesus, that's the pinnacle of cinema.
So I'm going to guess, based off some of the comments I've already kind of made offhanded here, that this might be the shorter segment. But let's start with positives because we do that sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
And I'll lead us off for this.
Okay.
Because why not?
Yeah.
I'll give this movie credit for this. When the werewolf is on screen, whether it's Project Metalbeast or pre-Metalbeast werewolf, I actually really like the design of the werewolf. Again, they're very yoked up. They're very buff werewolves. And at least the guy that we see who injects himself is not a very big dude. So the fact that he turns into this hulking metal beast of a metal beast, I do like the design. They're kind of shittily made. They kind of look like bad mascot costumes that they just retrofitted werewolfy type heads to, but it works for me, so I enjoyed that. And there is a scene where Project Metalbeast inexplicably is on the roof of this, I guess, CIA science lab. You know, it's a science lab because you always hear a lot of like, you know, water bubbling and like, you know, computers going beep, boop, boop. Yeah. So, you know, it's a science place that also has a swimming pool for some reason. Much like when Gary Busey was on the roof and Hider in the house, him just going across maybe I just like watching weird looking things running across roofs, but him like scurrying across a roof before whatever happens is pretty entertaining. And the last thing I'll say right now, and I'll turn it over to you, that I really enjoy is with these werewolves, I like that when the werewolf is on screen, which is not nearly enough. And granted, a lot of these things happen off screen, but they kind of show shit happening in a off screen death kind of way. These werewolves are like, it doesn't matter what's around them. I'm murdering the fuck out of the first thing I see. There's no reason. There's no like instigation. It's just like, I'm a werewolf. You're fucking dead. If I have anything to say about it, they wake up and they very like WWE just hit the first person they see with a steel chair and do werewolf shit. So I like how aggressive the werewolves are when they're actually around. And with that, Sean, how about you? Is there anything that you enjoy in this movie?
There are a few things that I enjoy in this movie. I do want to mention that the reason they bring this werewolf blood back to this military research facility, and Kim Delaney is a scientist and she's developing this I don't know, it's like a pseudo skin that can be, it like will turn into metal.
It doesn't really look metal.
Shit. Yeah, it looks like fish scale or something. It looks like fish skin. And so they bring this guy this agent who injects himself with the werewolf blood. They freeze him, and then 20 years later, they thaw him out. They're gonna make him the ultimate weapon, basically, and the ultimate warrior. And they're gonna put like this metal scale all over him. So when they bring him back, he's being operated on a lot. That'll probably come up more in the dislikes. But I just wanted to kind of throw that out as to why they bring him back. So I'm gonna start at the very opening. In the first 10 seconds of this movie, I really appreciate that they tell you, hey, this is Project Operation Lycanthropus. They say this is the U.S. military intelligence. It's in the Carpathian Mountains in Hungary. The objective is to sample werewolf blood, and the purpose is to create a superior combat agent. This is all just text. It's like the RoboCop like text over what's happening in the background. And you see the opening title card. It says Metalbeast right in the middle of it, and it looks like the project part of it is like hovering over the Metalbeast because the shadow's like moving. It's like really shitty Adobe After Effects in like 1995, like version 1.0. They just had to do what they had to do to get this project thing on there. And I read that it's called different things in different regions. So that's why some places just called Metalbeast. And I guess in our market, it's called Project Metalbeast. But we get the floating title card. Never a bad thing. A shoddily put together title card. I will always put that in my likes column. The next thing I want to mention is we get to see this agent guy who we will never remember the name of, although we could just look on IMDb what his name is. But the guy that injects himself with the werewolf blood and they freeze him. They have a whole full scene where he's just hanging brain the whole time. You can just see full dong, and he doesn't have any pubes. And I have to give it to him. This was like 1995, no pubes. Wow, that's really progressive. They pull him out of suspended animation and they just throw him directly on like a kitchen counter in the kitchen of the military lab facility. And they just start doing like, they do work on cadavers because they thought he was dead. I think initially they just do work on cadavers right on the kitchen table in this research facility. Amazing. I do have to say, when they bring him back to life, it's hilarious. Like somehow he's dead and he's frozen. He's below room temp, and they remove these silver bullets that he got shot with by Miller early in the movie. As soon as they remove the bullets, he just like his temperature is rising and like blood starting flowing out of the wounds and stuff. And it's like, is that how it works for a werewolf? Like if you leave the silver in them, they still are dead, or
I
what?
will say I've watched my fair share of werewolf movies, and I've never seen that done before. And a lot of, whether it's werewolves or vampires or pick your mythological creature, part of these movies is you're kind of poking fun at or playing with the lore however you want.
Sure.
I kind of dig the idea that if you just dig the silver out of their chest, like presumably the body's intact otherwise, I kind of like the idea that they just come back like that. That's kind of a cool way to fuck around with the lore that I didn't see coming. Well, until they had him on the operating table, I guess. Once he's on the operating table, you're like, yeah, this is going to go well.
Yeah, and it's like if you leave the silver in them, they just continue to be dead, essentially, until you pull it off.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, but it could have been done better for a number of reasons. I'm sure budget is a thing that we'll talk about at some point, because I think that's going to be a recurring thing. But the concept for that, how he comes back, it's like, all right, that's kind of cool. I can get down with that.
And I don't know if this is a like or dislike, but hear me out. So the wolf costume that they use isn't awful in maybe like one scene where they just multiple scenes. If they just show the head, I think it looks really good. Like the head looks really good, but
yeah.
And considering this is, like we just mentioned, this is like a no budget horror film from the mid 90s, but the sounds it makes are like the least intimidating thing at all. It's just like the stupidest thing. And the guy can transform from the guy to the werewolf kind of like back and forth as he pleases. And when they show the half transformed body, it looks just completely ridiculous. The rest of the body, apart from the head,
he looks like an extra from Freaked.
He looks like a McRib sandwich. Like he just has his skin just looks like the shit. Yeah. He looks like the shit they make McRibs out of. I like that they use the old like Twilight Zone TV show like horn stabs to emphasize action, or something like at the end of a scene they'll just do the it's like, oh no, something bad happened. And there's a part near the end where they're doing the face off with the werewolf, with the Project Metalbeast, and they shoot this bazooka. Like they have this bazooka that's like silver tipped bazooka rounds. I don't know what you even call those.
That whole
bazooka shot.
That whole sequence is so ridiculous that it should be I'm not sure. Just, do you want to back up and say what happens with this? Because I don't really care if we ruin this movie.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't really good enough to feel like you can't spoil it. So go for it.
One of the doctors that has kind of sort of figured out that this by golly, this might be a werewolf.
Good golly,
conveniently has like $400 of silver coins there, and melts him down it. And instead of making silver bullets, he essentially makes these like silver cones and just
sticks them on the end of a pipe.
Connects them to on the end of, basically makes like a pipe bomb that he shoots out of a bazooka at our good friend Project Metalbeast. And 2 of the 3 times it's not great, but 1 of the 3 times it's pretty fucking entertaining what it does. It's one of those, like, all right, you're playing with the lore, but that's dumb, but I'm kind of okay with it at this point. So
I love that they're running around this base, like just picking up all these silver coins. Like the Franklin Mint, like dropped off a pallet full of just silver coins, and they're just like picking them up and trying to melt them down. They shoot this bazooka round, and it hits a wall or something, and all these bricks fly out, and like a piece of rebar flies and goes into Kim Delaney's foot. She's like the main
She's fine.
hero. Yeah, it's in her foot. It's embedded in her foot. She pulls it out, and that's not fun, of course. But after she pulls it out, she just goes for a jog within minutes, and there's nothing wrong. She's just, whoop, 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 whoop,
she doesn't like tie it off.
No,
she doesn't tie it off. She doesn't do anything. She just, and the way it enters her foot, like no one can see this, but like where your ankle is, it basically goes in and like the top of her shin, and then like comes out the bottom of her foot. So it's fucking up her leg, her ankle, her foot. There's no way she should be walking, let alone running from a metal beast in this movie, but whatever.
Somehow she does.
And in heels.
Yeah, and she's running in this whole place, and somehow she just runs in this entire large circle and ends up exactly where she started, at the wall that got blown open, to do like the final confrontation, which is just this weird like wasting of minutes to, I don't know, have them run around to, it goes back to the thing like, I heard a movie's supposed to be this long. We got to do this thing so we can make it this long. It totally fits into that trope. That's it.
Yeah, more.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I know I just rattled off a lot of likes, but I'm ready for.
I feel like we've already highlighted kind of the entire movie, both good and bad, by talking just about the good, because it's so good. But on the negative side,
convincing.
The sound engineering in this is some of the shittiest I've ever fucking heard.
That is my top complaint too. The sound is fucking horrible. Yeah.
Even if this movie was like half-assedly okay, like the dialogue is so, it's like they had one microphone and they gave it to the cameraman instead of giving it to an actor, and just kind of went with it. But I did not try to put captions on with this. I just hit a point where it's like, oh fuck it, like, does it really matter? It's kind of how I check it.
Yeah,
but there might have been an interesting story in there, but I don't think even if there was, you're not going to fucking hear it on this movie.
Yeah, I don't think that anything that's said in here is like groundbreaking, that you have to, listen to it or read the captions or whatever. It just, to me, sounds like they had not necessarily one microphone. Like everybody seemed like they were mic'd fine, but they just turned the gate, or they turned like the noise reduction nowadays, and just turned it all the way up. So words are like cut off and you can't understand it. And there's just the sound and the music behind it is so loud that you just can't even concentrate on anything else. I concur. It's like one of the worst sounding movies I have heard, heard in a long time. It is really bad.
And then the other 2 things that I would say, and these kind of go hand in hand, this movie has a major pacing problem and a major off-screen death problem. The pacing is probably arguably the bigger problem of the 2, because much like I said about it takes 40 minutes for the Toxic Avenger to start Toxic Avenging, it takes, aside from the first 5 minutes of the movie, you get a pretty good introduction to the werewolf in the first, again, 5-ish minutes or so, and then we probably get about an hour before any more werewolfing happens, and then we get Project Metalbeast, and he's kind of there. But like I said, the good thing is when he's whether it's Metalbeast or just generic werewolf, if they're alive and on screen, they're trying to murder something. So that's entertaining. The downside is it's a lot of like, here comes his hand, or here comes his other hand, like, or they'll just have him grab someone and throw him off screen where he is, murdered to death. Yes. It just, nothing really happens. Not enough happens on screen to, I don't know. There's some things that do, but I would have liked, there's probably like 10 people that get, murked in this movie total. And you probably see like 2 of them actually get killed. And it would have been fun. Like, if you're going to make a shitty movie like this, like, you might as well have just saved the money on the microphones and just given me an hour and a half of Kane Hodder in like Metalbeast suit, just test footaging the shit out of it. I would have been just as entertained. But those are my big 3 gripes: is the sound, the pacing, and the off screening of death.
Well, just to expand on the pacing piece of it, there's that hour in the middle that kind of not much happens, at least. And a lot of it, like 40 minutes or so, is the agent that injected himself, Butler, because I wrote it in the notes that Butler's on the table just moaning and groaning for at least 40 minutes of this movie. They're putting the metallic skin on him, and they keep working on him before any of the action starts. And, you defrost the guy and you start working on him, and then he like comes back to life because you remove the silver, like his blood starts pumping, his temperature. Go to the hospital. The guy's not fucking dead.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he's screaming in pain this entire movie. The other like little nitpicks that I have are, in this movie, somebody's wearing a cross, and the Metalbeast like recoils in terror or whatever, and it's like, I didn't know that crosses
wasn't that a
affected
vampire
werewolf
thing?
Yeah, that's
it was a vampire
for sure
thing.
a vampire thing, not a werewolf thing.
No.
Never a werewolf thing. And the other part is,
I thought that was just me.
No. I picked up on that real quick. The wolf is chasing around one of the doctors. In the next scene, the doctor is with the rest of the team melting the silver coins that they have laying around the base. Like I said, the Franklin Mint just dropped them off to create this warhead. And he, so they can load this thing, but he's being chased. And it just seems like this is near the end. And then like, they forgot that he was being chased, and then he's helping them. It was just this weird, like, cut off of all the action, like one of the action scenes. Because there's probably there's like 3 to 4 action scenes in this movie, realistically, where there's stuff going on screen.
Sure.
And then it's like, we interrupted the middle of this chase scene to have him like go collect more, I don't know, the spirit of,
do some metallurgy.
Spirit of St. Louis or something, like finding all these stupid silver coins of like, Amelia Earhart and Elvis Presley and Kermit the Frog or whatever he's doing to these big aluminum foil wrapped warheads that are just ridiculous. But yeah, I feel like I had more likes than dislikes, but there's not a whole lot to love in this movie, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, I think part of the problem is there's just not a whole lot in this movie. When we talk about that pacing problem, I mean, a big chunk of that downtime in the middle, aside from Butler or whatever, like moaning, is Anna like reading papers. Oh, good. I came to a werewolf movie and I'm watching a scientist read. Great. Fucking lovely.
Action packed. Reading papers.
Right.
Amazing.
Right. I mean, and that's kind of where this movie falls short. And I'm sure a huge part of it is budget. Like, this actually, like, the concept of this movie is not terrible. Like, you actually have a concept that makes sense, kind of works, and is a fun way to play around with the werewolf lore. I wouldn't be mad if we got a reboot of Project Metalbeast where it's done right, except it would probably come out like the reboot of The Toxic Avenger, where I might be like, it's still just okay, but a different kind of okay.
Make the entire body and the head look like a McRib this time, not just the half transformed body.
Or maybe make Metalbeast look like, I don't know, metal.
Yeah, he's got the metal skin.
More metal.
But yeah.
Yeah, it just looks not great. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to knock this one too hard because honestly, like, as much as I'm raving about it, like, this isn't the worst thing that I've watched. Like, I could see myself maybe not putting this on again, but like, if I was thumbing through something and it's like Project Metalbeast, like, I know with pretty much 100% certainty, I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to watch this. And I think that's a good place to move on to hot dogs, unless you want to interject.
Then you're in for a big treat, bro, because it's hot dog time.
You want me to go first, or you want to go first?
Yeah, go first.
I'm going to be short and to the point. This movie sucks. It's not very good at all. There's like way more negative than positive, but it's got Kane Hodder and it's called Project Metalbeast. If you like werewolves and shitty movies in general, which is the kind of stuff we talk about, it's worth giving a try. I give it half a hot dog. At least you tried.
Whose hot dog is this, huh? Is it yours?
So for me, I feel like this movie could have been a lot better if they didn't try to put they've tried to put this serious spin on a clearly not serious subject. It's got a lot of potential to be a really cool sci-fi werewolf movie, but instead they spent a lot of time with the monster in question, just kind of like we said, laying on the table, moaning and groaning, instead of up and about and doing something in the movie. And I don't have a problem with any of the performances. It's, you know, it's a 90s movie with actors that you probably don't know and Barry Bostwick, right? It's just that the movie tries to
Kane
be
Hodder.
Kane Hodder, but you don't see him as anything other than a McRib beast. And the movie tries to be intellectual, and then that takes away from being as fun as it should be. So for me, it's a half a hot dog. It's a half hot dog kind of movie. I could maybe see myself watching it again with friends under the influence, but if you're in the mood for like an entertaining werewolf movie, this isn't it. The best part of this movie really is the last 20 minutes because it's fun to see Barry Bostwick get whacked. He gets whacked so hard that he flips and lands on his head, and the movie really goes way too deep in a plot that ultimately doesn't need to happen, considering like how this whole movie plays out. So half a hot dog max for me.
See, the problem with that is your friend who's going to get under substances and watch this kind of movie has already watched it.
Yeah, or they're going to get bored in the middle.
Yeah. I'll at least know when I'm like, all right, I'm going to go smoke again. I'll come back in like 20 minutes when this is picked up.
You should like watch the first, 15 minutes and then cut the movie and then put another good movie in the middle of it and then tack on the last 20 minutes. You're like, what the fuck going on? This is crazy.
Watch an episode of South Park real quick and come back to it.
Creep tapes.
Might do it. Or creep tapes. So let's move on. We're going to talk about our question of the week. And this one is pretty straight and to the point. The question is, what is, in your opinion, a good werewolf movie? So I'm going to skip around a little bit for this. So let's see. Garbage Face Restoration on Blue Sky. Sam from Creature Creatures DTF. And there was one other here. And 70s Comics Fan all said the movie Dog Soldiers is an actual good werewolf movie. This movie beat Dog Soldiers by one vote for us to cover it. It went against Dog Soldiers and it lost. So I appreciate everyone telling us that we should have watched a good movie, but instead we watched Project Metalbeast because you guys chose it. So thank you. So I'm going to scroll back up here. We're going to go back over to Blue Sky. Let's see. American Werewolf in London, although I do have a soft spot for Ginger Snaps. Shocker here. American Werewolf in London comes up a few times. Garbage Face Restoration also said American Werewolf in London. And then our friend Pearl over at XX Pearly XX on Blue Sky said the obvious answer is American Werewolf in London, but a movie with a werewolf that has a red rocket is just plain old fun. And she's referring to Wolf Cop. And then Schlockluster Video said, really big fan of The Beast Must Die. Love the werewolf break concept when the audience has the chance to play like werewolf Agatha Christie.
Agatha Christie.
A little bit of both. A pretty cool grindhouse icon, Calvin Lockhart, dip his toes in the horror genre. Very cool. I haven't seen The Beast Must Die in a really long time. I'm probably due for a rewatch of that. Sam also threw in The Howling. And then our friends over at Dissect That Film said Silver Bullet with the amazing Gary Busey. Still on Instagram, we have at Doug Jensen, who says, obviously American Werewolf in London, but I was recently pleased with Wolf of Snow Hollow. I haven't even heard of that one, so I'm going to add that to my wolf watching list. And then our friend Greg over at You Can Eat That Crust said American Werewolf in London and Ginger Snaps, and of course, Teen Wolf. Over on Threads, our friend Justin over at Pop Culture Reflections podcast said the obvious choice is American Werewolf in London, but I'll champion Ginger Snaps as well. A lot of people said Ginger Snaps, obviously. Rambrooks81 says Brotherhood of the Wolf is the best werewolf movie ever made. Pretty high praise, but okay, I respect it. And then Gheart316 said Werewolves Within, which I haven't seen that yet. It has Sam from Detroiters, so I do want to watch it. Sean, what's your opinion of an actual good werewolf movie?
It's been a long time since I saw The Beast Must Die, so I can't remember much about that.
Same.
My default answer would probably be what everybody else said was American Werewolf in London. But Wolf Cop. I forget about Wolf Cop, but that's such a good movie on its own.
Second one's not so great, and yeah, my default answer is also American Werewolf in London because it's just great. There's a lot of movies like, as much as I have mixed feelings about the movie Waxwork, I do like the werewolf vignette in there for the 3 minutes that it's on screen. So that's got a pretty cool werewolf in it. I do like Silver Bullet quite a bit, so that one would be up there for me as well. Wolf Cop's fun, and it is a entertaining movie, but I can't make it a favorite just because I prefer my werewolves to be more in the horror realm, and that's squarely in the horror comedy. So although I do like it a lot, it's not going to be at the top of the list for me. But it is an easy one to go back and give another watch to. So I can see where people are coming from with that. I think that's all we got. We have 2 more episodes left in Horrorween. So I think at this point, we're going to go ahead and start wrapping up. Do you got anything you want to throw in here before we do?
No.
Okay, then. So until next week, we do ask that if you have time, please do leave us a review on your podcast listening platform of choice. Positive, preferably, but positive, negative, anything in between, whatever you can do, it helps us out. You can also leave us feedback at crap.town. Crap.town is our site. All of our shows are there. You can even send us requests as what you want us to watch. If you want to send us a message or say, you idiots watch Project Metalbeast instead of Dog Soldiers, that's a good place to do it. We're on social media at Dewey Podmonster on pretty much all of them, except for Blue Sky, where we are at crap.town. And we do ask, of course, that you do go check out yourunpodcast.com. We are You Run Podcast Network members. We'd like you to go check out our show there. You can check out any of the other shows there. Please do find someone new while you're there at the same time. And last and certainly not least, we're coming up towards the end of the month. If you are in the Detroit area, whether you heard our episode last week about Trick or Treat or not, we're going to be playing it down at Batch Brewing for Franks and Steins this month. Come out and watch Trick or Treat with us, have a couple beers. It's going to be on Devil's Night. So you can watch Ozzy and Gene Simmons be in a movie for 3 minutes and then watch some other dude pretend to be Ozzy and Gene Simmons for the other hour and 30 minutes. So it's be a good time. Sean, what am I forgetting?
Do you think Devil's Night has spread outside of the Detroit area? Because I know that it wasn't for a long time. You think it's still just a Detroit thing?
Yeah.
Well, if you're listening, let us know. And you can let us know on social media that John cares about at Dewey Pod Monster or on Blue Sky at crap.town. If you like any of the things that we talked about on this show, we're going to leave them in the show notes. What other show do you know? John, what other show do you know provides their audience hours of mostly free entertainment outside of the podcast that those people would actually record as well? None. I'm going to answer for you. None. We're the only ones that do it. Nobody else even knows what a hyperlink is. We're the only ones that do because we're smart as fuck and sexy. So if you want to talk to, or if you want to follow people that are smart as fuck and sexy's suggestions, go to our show notes. All the stuff on there is going to be free unless it says Amazon next to it. If it says Amazon next to it, or Netflix, I guess. If it says Amazon next to it, though, you click that thing. That's an affiliate link. We get a few bucks if you buy anything through that affiliate link. It helps the show out. The other way to help the show, like John mentioned, is to tell a friend or leave a review on a platform, on a podcast platform of your choosing. We're not picky. Leave a review, good, bad, and different. If you leave a bad one, tell us what we can do to improve. We love to improve on things. Other than that, if you want to follow me, I'm available on Blue Sky exclusively. I am at internalbleeding.crap.town on Blue Sky. I post little clips of stupid movies. You might like them. Sometimes they're funny. Sometimes they're not. Other than that, that's all I'm up to. If you want your question of the week answered right on this here show, follow us on social media. Answer the ones John posts. We'll talk about them. And thanks for all that stuff. John, back to you.
I think on a scale of sexy to McRib, I skew a lot closer to McRib. But that's a story for the earlier part of this podcast. So thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. Happy Horrorween. Swill up, Butthorns. Cheers.
Bird season's over, Butthorn.
Did you just lay down? It's caught. Lay down.
Frozen in fear.
He was like this earlier too. Sorry, I had to give you something else to edit around.